The aroma of my mother's famous lasagna wafted through the air, mingling with the laughter of my family gathered in the living room. It was a familiar scene, yet today, a veil of tension hung over us like a thundercloud ready to burst. I watched as they exchanged stories, their voices rising and falling like the tide, but I felt like a ghost floating on the periphery of their joy. My heart raced with a mix of anticipation and confusion as I clutched the edges of my chair, the wood cool against my palms. I had just canceled my long-awaited vacation, a decision that felt like a betrayal of my own desires, but the guilt of wanting to escape my family's financial struggles weighed heavily on me. As I glanced around the room, my eyes landed on the stack of old vacation photos resting on the coffee table. Memories flooded back, each snapshot a reminder of carefree days spent laughing with my family. But the warmth of those memories was quickly overshadowed by a growing sense of unease. My mother's laughter, though sweet, felt sharp like the edge of a knife. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off, that beneath the surface of our cozy gathering lay secrets waiting to be unveiled. Then it happened. My younger sister, Emily, casually mentioned the extravagant gifts my family had received at the baby shower. The words hung in the air like a bitter aftertaste, and I felt my stomach twist. I had sacrificed my vacation to ease our financial burden, yet here they were, indulging in luxury while I struggled with guilt. I wanted to confront them, to demand answers, but the fear of shattering our fragile family harmony kept me silent. The laughter around me felt like a cruel joke, and I couldn't help but wonder how I had let myself be so easily deceived. My mother's gaze met mine across the room, and for a fleeting moment, I saw something flicker in her eyes. Was it guilt or defiance? My heart pounded as I wrestled with my emotions, torn between the love I felt for my family and the betrayal that burned deep within me. I knew I had to uncover the truth, but the thought of confronting my mother made my throat tighten with dread. This gathering was supposed to be a celebration, yet it felt more like a masquerade, each smile hiding a secret that could unravel everything. As the night wore on, I could sense the undercurrents of tension growing stronger. I couldn't enjoy the comfort of my family's presence, knowing there were unspoken truths lurking just beneath the surface. I felt like I was standing on the edge of a precipice, ready to leap into the unknown, but the fear of the fall held me back. I wanted to scream, to demand answers, but all I could do was sit there, trapped in my own thoughts, waiting for the moment when I would finally confront the betrayal that threatened to tear us apart. The tension in the air was palpable as I sat at the dining table, surrounded by my family. My mother, Margaret, sat at the head, her expression a mix of authority and feigned warmth. The familiar scent of her lasagna wafted through the room, a stark contrast to the storm brewing within me. I could hear the clinking of forks against plates, but the sounds felt muffled, as if I were submerged underwater. My fingers fidgeted with the edge of my napkin, twisting the fabric until it was wrinkled and uneven, a physical manifestation of my inner turmoil. As I glanced around, I caught my mother's eyes darting towards my father, their silent communication filled with unspoken truths. It was a dance I had witnessed countless times, but tonight the choreography felt different, laden with something darker. The laughter from my siblings felt forced, a thin veneer over the palpable unease that hung like a thick fog. I felt as if I were watching a play unfold, with each family member performing their role flawlessly while I sat on the sidelines, desperate to break the illusion. My heart raced as I thought back to the discovery that had shattered my perception of our family's reality. Hours before, I had stumbled upon the evidence of their extravagance, luxury tickets to a concert I had wanted to attend. The realization hit me like a slap in the face, igniting a fire of betrayal within. I had sacrificed my vacation, my happiness, to alleviate the financial strain I believed we were under, only to find my family indulging in what I had been led to believe was unattainable. "Jennifer, are you all right?" "You've been awfully quiet," my mother's voice sliced through my thoughts, her tone dripping with feigned concern. The way she leaned in, her eyes narrowing slightly, felt like an interrogation. I forced a smile, the muscles in my face straining against the weight of my emotions. "I'm fine, just thinking," I replied, my voice steadier than I felt, but my mind raced with questions, each one a dagger aimed at the heart of our family dynamic. Did they think I wouldn't notice? Did they believe I would remain blissfully ignorant of their duplicity? My hands trembled slightly as I pushed my plate away, the food suddenly unappetizing. The room fell silent, the air thick with unspoken words, and I knew this was the moment I had to confront my mother about the secrets that threatened to unravel everything we had built together. I felt a swell of frustration and anger rise within me, battling against the fear of what the fallout might be. I wanted to demand answers, to expose the lies that had poisoned our family, but the prospect of that confrontation loomed like a dark cloud, heavy and oppressive. My heart pounded as I prepared to speak, knowing that once I opened that door, there would be no turning back. The stakes were high, and I could feel the weight of my decision pressing down on me, suffocating my resolve. The sun dipped low outside, casting long shadows across the living room. I sat on the edge of the couch, the fabric rough against my skin as I scrolled through my phone. Each swipe felt like a dagger to my heart, especially when I stumbled upon a social media post that revealed my family's recent indulgence, luxury concert tickets. The image of them, all smiles and excitement, sent shockwaves of betrayal coursing through my veins. How could they? I had sacrificed my own happiness for their supposed financial struggles, and now this. "Jen, you okay?" David's voice broke through my thoughts, pulling me back to the moment. He stood in the doorway, concern etched on his face. I forced a smile, but the knots in my stomach tightened further. "Yeah, just looking at some old photos," I lied, my voice shaky and uncertain. I could sense the disbelief in his gaze as he stepped closer, leaning against the wall. "What's really going on?" he pressed, his tone coaxing yet cautious. I glanced away, unable to meet his eyes. The weight of my emotions felt unbearable, the tension palpable. I wanted to scream, to unleash the turmoil inside me, but the fear of what that might mean held me back. Instead, I bit my lip, a habit I had developed when grappling with uncertainty. "I just found out some things," I finally admitted, my voice barely above a whisper. David's brow furrowed as he moved to sit beside me, the couch sinking slightly under his weight. "What kind of things?" "About the tickets," I replied, my heart racing as I recounted the details. They knew I was struggling, yet they chose to spend money on this. The betrayal felt fresh, raw, and each word I spoke added fuel to the fire of my anger. David listened intently, his expression shifting from concern to frustration. "They're not being fair, Jen. You deserve better than this," he said, his voice firm yet soothing. I nodded, the truth of his words resonating deeply within me. I felt a surge of resolve. I couldn't let their deceit go unchallenged. A family outing loomed ahead on the calendar, an event that now felt forced and insincere. As the days passed, I felt the tension mounting, a storm brewing beneath the surface. I could picture their smiles, but now they felt like masks hiding the truth. I needed to confront them, to demand answers, but the thought of shattering the fragile facade of our family dynamic left me feeling paralyzed. My hands trembled as I considered my next steps, knowing that the confrontation could either tear us apart or bring the truth to light. The stakes were high, and I was determined to uncover the reality behind their betrayal. The atmosphere in the family home felt charged with unspoken words, a thick tension hanging in the air like a storm cloud poised to burst. As I sat alone in my room, the soft glow of the lamp illuminated my notes scrawled across several pages. Each line was a reflection of my swirling emotions, determination battling against the gnawing sadness of betrayal. I could hear the distant sounds of laughter and clinking dishes from the dining room, but they felt like echoes from another world, one where honesty and trust still existed. My heart raced with anxiety as I methodically planned my confrontation, envisioning every possible reaction and outcome. I scribbled notes about their financial decisions, notes that felt like a lifeline to the truth I desperately needed to unveil. "I can't let this go unchecked," I muttered to myself, the words heavy with a mix of resolve and sorrow. But what if my confrontation shattered the fragile bonds that held us together? The thought made my stomach churn, and I paused, biting my lip as I fought back the wave of doubt threatening to overwhelm me. Later that evening, we gathered around the table for dinner, the atmosphere thick with an uncomfortable silence. My siblings laughed too loudly, and my mother's smile seemed strained, as if she were holding her breath, waiting for the inevitable explosion. I felt like an intruder in my own family, the tension coiling tighter with each passing moment. David sat beside me, his brow furrowed in concern, yet he remained silent, sensing the emotional storm brewing within me. I could feel his presence, a steady warmth amidst the chaos, but it only highlighted my isolation. As I pushed the food around my plate, I caught David's eye, and he gave me a slight nod of encouragement. It was a reminder that I wasn't alone, yet the fear of confronting my mother still loomed large in my mind. I could picture her reaction, the defensive walls she would erect, and the way she might twist my words to avoid accountability. Just the thought sent a shiver down my spine. My breath quickened, and I clenched my fists beneath the table, fighting against the urge to flee. Finally, the moment arrived. The silence was unbearable. The tension snapped as I spoke, my voice wavering but resolute. "We need to talk about the tickets and the gifts." I deserved to know the truth. The words hung in the air, heavy and charged, while my family froze, their faces a mixture of shock and apprehension. I could feel my heart pounding in my chest, each beat echoing my determination to confront the betrayal head-on. This was it, the moment I had been preparing for, and yet, as I looked into their eyes, I felt a deep-seated sadness swell within me, knowing that the truth could fracture our family forever. The air was thick with tension as I settled into the living room, the muted hum of conversation enveloping me like a suffocating blanket. David sat beside me, his presence a reassuring warmth in the midst of the storm brewing within my family. I could hear my mother's voice, a melodic facade that masked the chaos simmering beneath. The flickering light from the fireplace cast dancing shadows on the walls, reflecting the turmoil in my heart. The aroma of my mother's cooking filled the room, but instead of comfort, it only reminded me of the betrayal that lingered like a bitter aftertaste. As I glanced around, I caught glimpses of my family, their expressions a mix of forced smiles and fleeting glances. My siblings exchanged whispers, the sound like the rustling of leaves, each word laden with unspoken truths. I felt like an outsider in my own home, the weight of my discovery pressing down on me. The laughter that once felt warm now seemed hollow, echoing through the room like a taunt. My heart raced, caught in a whirlwind of emotions. I wanted to restore harmony, yet the betrayal felt like a chasm widening between us. David leaned closer, his voice a mere whisper. "You know, it's okay to feel angry, Jennifer. You're not alone in this." His words wrapped around me like a lifeline, and I could see the concern etched on his face. I nodded, though my mind swirled with doubts. Did they really think I would just accept their lies? I had sacrificed so much for the sake of family, yet here we were, teetering on the edge of destruction. I couldn't shake the feeling that reconciliation was a fragile dream, one that could shatter with a single misstep. As the evening progressed, I found myself reflecting on my choices, my heart heavy with the weight of the impending confrontation. I had wanted to believe in the goodness of my family, to trust that we could mend the rifts that had formed. But how could I bridge that gap when the truth lay like a boulder between us? Each laugh, each shared joke felt like a betrayal of its own, deepening the wound that had already been inflicted. My resolve wavered, torn between the desire for peace and the need for justice. When the time came for a family meeting, I felt my pulse quicken, a blend of hope and despair coursing through me. My mother's voice, usually a source of comfort, now felt like a blade poised to cut through the thin veil of civility. I could see her preparing for the meeting, her facade of calmness a stark contrast to the storm brewing inside me. As we gathered around the table, I took a deep breath, trying to steady my racing heart. Would this be the moment we finally addressed the elephant in the room, or would it simply lead us further into chaos? The stakes were higher than ever, and the path ahead felt uncertain, shrouded in shadows of doubt and fear. In the dim light of my room, surrounded by the echoes of laughter from the living room, I felt a fire igniting within me, fueled by betrayal. The flicker of candlelight cast shadows on the walls, creating a perfect backdrop for the storm brewing in my heart. I could hear my family enjoying themselves, oblivious to the turmoil churning inside me. My fingers clenched around the edge of the desk, the wood rough against my skin, grounding me amidst the chaos of my emotions. I had spent the past few days wrestling with the truth about their extravagance, my heart pounding with a mixture of anger and resolve. The image of luxury tickets, a symbol of my family's duplicity, replayed in my mind like a haunting refrain. I remembered my mother's rehearsed smiles, the way she had manipulated our family dynamics to maintain a facade of harmony. This was no longer just about the tickets. It was about reclaiming my voice in a family that had silenced me for too long. As I paced the room, the weight of my decision pressed down on me, heavy yet liberating. I needed to confront my mother, to lay bare the truth that had festered between us. The thought of her reaction sent a shiver down my spine. Would she deflect, deny, or finally acknowledge the hurt she had caused? My heart raced at the thought, each beat a reminder of the stakes involved. I couldn't let fear dictate my actions any longer. I needed to take control of my narrative. I grabbed my phone, typing a message to Samantha, my best friend who had always stood by me. "I'm ready to confront them. I can't let this go on any longer." My fingers trembled slightly as I hit send, the finality of my decision sending a rush of adrenaline through me. David's supportive presence lingered in my mind. He had encouraged me to stand up for myself, to claim the justice I deserved. I could almost hear his voice, reminding me that I was not alone in this fight. With a deep breath, I steeled myself for the confrontation ahead. This wasn't just a fight for the truth. It was a battle for my dignity and self-worth. I could feel the anger simmering just beneath the surface, ready to explode. It was time to shatter the illusion of harmony and face the reality of our family's betrayal. I was done hiding in the shadows. This was my moment, and I would not be silenced any longer. As I made my way to the living room, my heart thudded in my chest, each step a declaration of my resolve. I could feel the tension in the air, a palpable current that seemed to crackle with anticipation. This was it, the moment I would confront my mother and reclaim my agency. The fire within me burned brighter, illuminating the path forward, guiding me toward the confrontation that would change everything. My silence was over, and I was ready to face the consequences, whatever they may be. I steadied my breath, knowing that the time for action had come. My family might have thought they could keep their secrets hidden, but I was about to expose the truth. This ends with me, I thought, as I entered the room, ready to shatter the facade and demand the answers I deserved. Sentemi na mesa de kazenha, o papelem branco diant de mim persha umatella vazia carregata de possibilidades e armadilhas. O cero do café fresco, e las suave de manha, filtrata pelas cortinas mi cercavem, mas nada de so conseguia abafar a tempestade que ruja dentro de mim. Cada letra que eu escrevia era uma declaração de guerra silenciosa contra três ao que minha família me infligira. Preciso ser cuidadosa, pensei, enquanto rabiscava ideias sobre como confrontar minha me e expor suas mentiras. A cada palavra que surge, meu coração acelerava, amigo constante de determinação que me impulsionava. Lembrei-me das conversas que tive com Samantha, minha melhor amiga, que me encorajava a não me calar, a não deixar que a dor de traição me reduzisse ao silêncio. Vou querer mera saber a verdade, Jennifer, ela dissera, e as palavras de la resolvem minha mente como mantra. Mas enquanto eu escrevia, uma onda de ansiedade me invadia. E se a confrontação seis pela culatra, e se eu perdesse tudo, inclusive a relação com minha me, a imagem de David me apoiando na porta de casa veio a minha mente, seu olhar preocupado, refletindo a luta interna que eu vivia. Ela era âncora meio a tempestade, mas sua hesitação se envolver me fazia questionar se ela realmente entendia a gravidade da situação. Ela só quer proteger voquer, uma parte de mim se chorava, enquanto a outra parte se perguntava se ela estava apenas evitando o conflito. Revirei o papel, deixei a tinta secar e respirei fundo, tentando canalizar a ansiedade clareza. Naquela manhã, enquanto eu escrevia meu plano, percebi que cada frase era passo direção a verdade que precisava ser revelada. Não podia deixar que a traição de minha família me impedisse de ser quem realmente sou. Esta acute a minha história e vou contá-la de meu jeito, prompti a mim mesma, juramento silencioso que me enchia de uma nova força. O peso de decisão ainda pressionava meu peito, mas havia uma faísca de empoderamento começando a brilhar dentro de mim, pronta para ser liberada na hora certa. Quando finalmente terminei, olhei para o papel, agora repleto de anotações e ideias. Era o meu guia para a confrontação que se aproximava, uma preparação que me daria coragem e a clareza necessárias para enfrentar minha família. Sabia que a batalha estava prestes a começar, e eu estava determinada a lutar por minha verdade, não importava o custo. The family gathering felt charged, an electric hum in the air as I took my place among them, my heart pounding like a war drum. The room was dimly lit, shadows dancing on the walls from flickering candles, creating an atmosphere ripe for confrontation. My mother's laughter rang out, a sound I once cherished, but now it felt like a taunt, mocking me from the depths of betrayal. I could smell the rich aroma of garlic and herbs from the kitchen, but it did little to soothe the storm brewing inside me. I could feel the fabric of my dress clinging to me uncomfortably, a physical reminder of the tension weighing me down. I took a deep breath, my palms clammy against the smooth surface of the table. We need to talk about the tickets and the gifts, I announced, my voice steadying as I met my mother's eyes. The laughter faded instantly, leaving an eerie silence in its place. My siblings exchanged glances, their expressions a mix of shock and apprehension. I could see my mother's facade cracking, her smile faltering as she searched for words to deflect my accusation. "What do you mean, Jennifer?" she said, her tone deceptively light, but I could hear the tremor beneath it. "It's not what you think." I leaned forward, my heart racing as I pressed on, "But it is what I think. I sacrificed my vacation for your so-called financial struggles while you indulge in luxury I can't even fathom." My voice rose, fueled by the hurt and betrayal that had been festering inside me, the truth spilling out like an overflowing dam. Margaret's face paled, the color draining from her cheeks as the weight of my words sank in. I could feel the air grow thick with tension, the atmosphere so charged it felt like a live wire. David shifted uncomfortably beside me, his hand brushing against mine in a silent show of support. I glanced at him, seeking reassurance, but his expression mirrored my unease, a reminder of the stakes at hand. "You don't understand, Jennifer," my mother finally retorted, her voice rising as defensiveness took over. "We did it for you, for the family." For me, I shot back, incredulous. "You didn't even think to include me in the decision. You just assumed I would sit quietly while you all enjoyed what I couldn't have." The words hung heavily in the air, each syllable a dagger aimed at the heart of our family dynamics. The fallout was immediate. My siblings' faces twisted in disbelief, the tension rippling through the room like a shockwave. I could feel their eyes boring into me, a mixture of sympathy and fear reflected back. The air felt thick and suffocating, laden with unspoken truths, and I knew that I had crossed a line that could not be uncrossed. As the silence stretched on, I felt a sense of catharsis wash over me, a release of the pent-up emotions that had held me captive for so long. I had unleashed the truth, and now there was no turning back. My heart raced with the thrill of confrontation, but beneath that, a profound sadness settled in. The family I had known was fracturing before my eyes, and I could only hope that, in this chaos, we might find a way to rebuild, to confront the betrayal that had threatened to tear us apart. The aftermath of that fateful confrontation lingered in the air like the scent of burnt toast, acrid and unsettling. I sat on the edge of my bed, the weight of my words still hanging heavily in my chest. The echoes of my accusations played on repeat in my mind, mingling with the haunting silence that followed. My family, once a source of comfort, now felt like a fragile shell, cracked and ready to splinter. I could hear muffled voices from the living room, the remnants of our earlier chaos reverberating through the walls. Were they discussing me? The thought made my stomach churn, a twisted knot of anxiety tightening its grip. Hours passed, each tick of the clock amplifying my unease. I caught glimpses of my siblings moving about the house, their expressions a mix of disbelief and concern. The laughter that had filled our home was replaced by a heavy silence, a stark reminder of the rift I had opened. I felt a pang of guilt for the hurt I had inflicted, but it was overshadowed by the resolve that had driven me to speak the truth. I had finally broken the cycle of deceit that had held us captive, and while the path ahead was uncertain, I knew I had taken a crucial step. David found me later, his presence a calming balm against the storm of emotions swirling inside me. He sat beside me, his shoulder brushing against mine, a silent reassurance. "You did what you had to do, Jennifer," he said softly, his voice steady. I nodded, though the uncertainty still gnawed at me. "But what if it changes everything?" I whispered, my voice trembling. He sighed, wrapping an arm around my shoulders. "Sometimes things have to break before they can be rebuilt. We can't fix what we don't acknowledge." As I leaned into him, I felt a flicker of hope ignite within me. Maybe this confrontation, painful as it was, could pave the way for healing. I envisioned a future where honesty reigned, where we could rebuild our family on a foundation of trust rather than deception. It wouldn't be easy, but the possibility of reconciliation was worth fighting for. I took a deep breath, allowing the warmth of David's embrace to wash over me, a reminder that I wasn't alone in this journey. I was ready to face whatever came next, determined to reclaim the narrative of my life and my family. Sitting in the quiet aftermath of the confrontation, I felt a strange blend of relief and unease settle over me like a heavy blanket. The walls of my family home, once filled with laughter and warmth, now echoed with the weight of unspoken truths. I glanced around the room, taking in the remnants of our fractured gathering, the half-eaten food, the abandoned conversations, and the palpable tension that hung in the air. It was a stark reminder of the battle I had fought, and while I had uncovered the betrayal, the path to healing felt uncertain. I had taken a stand, but at what cost? The faces of my family swirled in my mind, each one a reminder of the love I still held for them despite the hurt. Reflecting on my journey, I realized that confronting my mother had been a necessary step toward reclaiming my narrative. I had feared losing everything, yet I had gained clarity amidst the chaos.